It works. How about that? So, it's amazing. Sometimes technology works and sometimes it doesn't. The title of my... Oh, this out here. Oh, I need to whoa. You know, somewhere. Let me see. Right about here? Are we good? Everybody can hear me? Yeah. No, I need to project my voice. Yeah. All right. Yeah. You know, one of my undergraduate degrees, I had 3 of them was drama. And so I could do this projection thing every once in a while if I have to. But most of the time I have a very soft voice like this. So, let me see. I don't know, 1, 2, 3, testing. The title for my talk today is How We Find Inner Peace and Freedom in a Chaotic World. Oh man, that's a mouthful. I'm not sure there is peace and freedom, period. And I don't think it exists outside of us. It's a thing that exists within us. And we have to find ways to formulate. I got some guys going this way and some guys doing this way. Anyway, first of all, let me start out by offering some insights. I'm a Zen Buddhist priest, as you probably gathered. One of the things that we do is offer things. We offer incense to the universe. Let's hope that it brings a sweet smell of serenity and peace and happiness to each of us on this room. We'll invite the bell to ring. 1. I have the answer to. Are we okay? We're going to switch to. I have the answer. I'm not sure what the answer is.
Sorry. This is a new system and it's obviously not what this is.
Yeah, it was distracting. Yeah? Okay, anyway, can you hear me? Here, let me bring that over just a little bit more. How's that? Does that work for you guys? Are we good? We're good. Yeah, just keep that sucker pointed down. Okay. I sometimes I do formal. Rarely. Right, Reba? Sometimes I kind of just go informal. Because we are all human beings, and it's a personal thing, this peace and happiness and joy in the world. It's something that you have to touch within yourself. I didn't learn that until some years ago. Prior to that, I was in a family that was totally alcoholic and very abusive, very violent. In fact, I had to hold a gun on my father once and tell him to get out of the house because he was beating the hell out of my mother. Interesting, I have that gun still. I had sold it just before I went in the Army. I went in the Army at 17 years old, and I sold this little .22 rifle to a friend of mine. Well, guess what? 2 years ago, this friend friended me on Facebook and said, "You know, Harvey, I have that rifle. Do you want it?" This is a rifle my grandfather gave me when I was 13. I used it when I was 14 to kick my father out. And at 16, 6 days after my 17th birthday, I joined the Army, sold the gun. He shipped it to me free. So now I have this the only thing left from my grandfather was this .22 rifle. Anyway, I enlisted in the Army, and off I went, and to make a long story sort of short, May 29th, 1966, I was involved in a very heavy firefight in Vietnam. And we were surrounded by a battalion or two of North Vietnamese regular soldiers. There was only 100 of us. We were overrun a couple of times, and I got shot in the head somewhere around midnight. I'm going to be one of the few people, Reba's heard this all before, I'm sorry, Reba. I have to be one of the few human beings who's actually touched his own brain. The bullet hit my head. I wondered, what the hell was that? I reached up and felt my brain, and I said, uh-oh, I got a problem. So I called for a medic, and this guy crawled under and put a compressed bandage on my head, and then I was paralyzed on my left side. Just before that, I killed a friend of mine. Not on purpose, of course. But it was night, and we were being attacked, and this fellow was a part of a listening post, and he panicked and dropped his little red filtered flashlight, which was supposed to get him free passage across the perimeter. He dropped it, and he was just running with his rifle up, and just with all the other enemy soldiers, and he happened to cross in front of me, unfortunately for both of us, because I shot him in the stomach. And he fell about 10 meters off to my left, and he didn't die right away. As you may or may not know, wounds like that, you don't die soon. And he cried for his mother. He cried to God. He wanted to live. His name was Richard Roundtree. He was 19 years old. He was from Washington State. So I listened to him cry, and I was freaking out myself about whether I was going to live or not. That began my journey, if you will, into this realm of spirituality or practice or whatever you want to call it. I spent a considerable amount of time in a hospital convalescing. I got back the use of my leg partially and the use of my arm, but not my hand. I can pull the clutch back on my motorcycle, and that's about it with that. I can also hold a drumstick if I wrap it in my hand with an ankle wrap. Anyway, that's beside the point. I guess, well, maybe it's not beside the point, because you know what? Some of the joy in my life comes from three actually: music, Tootsie Roll Pops, and my Harley Davidson motorcycle, which I love dearly, and it's the only vehicle I have. Unfortunately, I broke it on the way back from Farmington the other day, and so I had to borrow my wife's car to get here. I hardly ever ride in a cage, you know. It's one of those things. I'm a biker. What can I say? All right, so anyway. What can I say about happiness and serenity and peace and joy and all that good stuff that we talk about all the time? I turn on my little Kindle here and get some notes. You know, some see our world as always chaotic and dangerous and that sort of thing. Often people in cities feel that way. In sociology, there's the terms Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft. In one community, like an urban community, everybody's concerned about privacy and security and stuff like that. In a rural community, less so. And I lived in the mountains off the grid for 3 years. I can tell you, people up there work together. There's a lot of mutual aid that goes on. If I wanted to, if somebody needed some sugar, I could put it in a baggie and stick it in my mailbox with a note. And guess what? The post guy would pick it up and take it to them and drop it off. That's what kind of a community it was. Nobody locked their doors. It was a safe community and a community where everybody joined together. In a city, it's a little bit different, isn't it? We have a sense that there's danger in the world. And maybe there is. I don't know. I guess there is. One of the things I think that we usually grow up with is a sense that we have these three assumptions: that the world is relatively safe, relatively fair, and relatively predictable. And that makes it possible for us to have commerce, for us to have friends, for us to go about our business. We think it's relatively safe, fair, and predictable out there. We didn't expect to come into this room this morning and have the roof collapse on that side and kill 3 or 4 of you in front of our very eyes. We didn't expect that. Sometimes that happens, though. Sometimes trauma happens to a person, like a gunshot to a head, or like a car accident, and you witness somebody injured or dying or something like that. And in those cases, sometimes we believe that the world is now unfair, it's unpredictable, and it's dangerous. Now, when we have that sense, and many urban people do, that the world is unfair, unsafe, and unpredictable, because we see it in the news all the time, then our behavior changes. Suddenly, the world is suspect. Our friends and neighbors are suspect. People who are slightly different from us are suspect. If they're a different color or different faith tradition or something like that, they're suspect. And what do we do when the world is suspect, when those people are suspect? We put doors up. We want to put a wall up along our border. We want to put locks on our doors. We want to lock our cars. We want to lock ourselves in or out, depending, I guess, on how you look at it. But, you know, the world is what gives us joy. The world is what gives us serenity and peace. That world out there has beauty in it. One of the things, I worked on a Navajo reservation for a while with a Navajo road chief. And one of the things that happened was this one guy who was coming back to the reservation. He had this kind of sickness they have sometimes. And he was wanting to somehow find peace in himself and go back to the beauty way of the Navajo, as the Navajos say. We took a walk because these guys don't like to talk so much. But we took a walk, and we happened to stop, and I said, you know what, dude, look down. And he looks down, and guess what? Between his feet was a little flower. For some reason, at that moment, he stopped. There was a flower between his feet. There's beauty everywhere if we simply open our eyes to it, if we open our hearts to it. And that's really hard when we're afraid, when we're frightened. Now, I'm not going to say that there's not a storm out there, that there's not danger out there. That there's not, I know that for sure, man. I mean, it's there. But what's important is our response to it. That's the important thing. The danger's there, yes. The chaos is there, yes. But it's our response to it that's important, how we respond to that. How do you respond to news stories? How do you respond to an accident on the street? How do you respond to somebody who needs money and they're asking for it at a gas station? How do you respond to these things? I often tell the story of of a duck floating on water. You got this duck, right? You all have seen a duck in a pond. They float along. They're happy little guys. They float, float, float. And then along comes a little bit of a breeze, and the water gets a little choppy. And then it gets really choppy. And then now there's lightning and thunder and all kinds of stuff. And that duck, what is he doing? He's floating. You know, for him, there's no storm. For him, he's just floating. Now, as the external world approaches us, it does affect us. Our response to it is equally important. Now, that's not to say that there isn't danger in that storm. I had a client one day in my therapeutic office who was a combat vet, said, well, but Harvey, what if I pull out a shotgun and blow his head off? Yeah, okay, that's true. He could die. But for him, there was no storm. He was simply floating. Now, how many of you, when you wake up in the morning, float? You know what that means, float? You're kind of like half awake, half asleep. You're just sort of floating. That's the state I'm thinking of. You just float. Now, we know that there's a storm out there sometimes. We know that there was 9/11. We know that there are attacks on us and so forth, and we're attacking other people, and all kinds of bad things are happening. But what we can do is sit down and shut up. We can be present with our feelings, with our fear. Huh? What is that after all, anyway? What is that? It's just a feeling. It's just a feeling that can come and go. It's a feeling based on our perception of a situation. The situation itself is just that, isn't it? It's just a situation. We add to it with our thoughts and our feelings. We add to it. I've often said, so let's say somebody's driving along and you're driving along and you got to get to work and you have a flat tire. Oh my God, I'm going to be late. My boss is going to be up and down, blah, 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 blah. You just have a flat tire. So what do? You do what's in front of you to do. You change the tire. Change the tire. And if your spare is flat, what do? Well, I guess you call for a service guy or you put your thumb out. Something. How many of you still have seen a car sitting out there with a flat tire for 10 years? No. Somehow or another, the tire gets fixed and the person gets on their way. But what we do is we bring something to it and we make it a problem. Yeah? We make it a problem. Just like when we see a news story about violence, we become afraid. We want to lock our doors. We want to carry mace or a pistol or something like that. We want to protect ourselves. We're so afraid. The Buddha taught three things. Well, Buddha taught many things. But one of the things he taught was there were three poisons in the world. Greed, hatred, and delusion. Okay? Greed can be addressed by what? What addresses greed? Generosity, absolutely. And what about hatred? What about dislike, hatred? Love, okay? Greed, hatred. Delusion. Delusion means separation. Delusion means that we feel like we're all separated from each other. But in fact, we're not. As you have said here many times, I'm sure, we're one. We're one. When we can realize, truly realize, that all of us are in this together, that we're all really one being with the universe, then what's there to be afraid of? I ask you that, and I mean it. If we are one with the universe, if the universe is one, then what is there to be afraid of? This singularity, this ego, this Harvey Hilbert is going to die. No kidding. We're all going to do that. So, what is my true essence is not going to die. My true nature, my Dharma nature, my Buddha nature, my godliness, if you will not die. It's pervasive. It's everywhere. It's all of us, all at once. What does die is our sense that we're somehow divided from it. And I'll tell you what, I don't think that's such a bad thing to let that go. Because when we let that go, there's a possibility of us living in real joy and real peace and real happiness. When I don't have to worry about Harvey Hilbert, and I can put my attention on you, on caring for you, on mutual aid, on caring for our society, caring for our people, that's a wonderful thing. I don't have to worry about me. I've got it covered, man. I'm good. I see by the time it's, I'm supposed to stop at 11:10, right?
15.
Oh, 11:15, and then I got 5 minutes for meditation. Oh, cool. Okay, I want to talk about a couple of things that are tools that we can use to find this way, if you will. One is meditation, and you guys do meditation here. I know that. But we do meditation in a specific way in the Zen world. We call it shikantaza, to wholeheartedly sit, hitting the mark. To wholeheartedly sit, hitting a mark. That means we simply sit down and shut up. Nothing more. There's no added anything. There's no music. There's no chanting. There's none of that kind of stuff. We just sit facing a wall and see ourselves. The wall becomes a kind of mirror over time. Lots of things come up. Okay? There's a couple of instructions for this. You sit down, either in a chair or on a cushion. You put your hands together in what's called the cosmic mudra, left hand cradled in right, thumbs lightly touching. Elbows extended slightly as if you're holding an egg in your armpit. Huh? Yeah, that's a nice image, isn't it? Don't drop that egg. All right, so you're sitting there, back straight, chin slightly tucked. That's all there is. Now, that's one aspect, posture. Second aspect is your breath. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Through your nose if you can. If you can't, that's okay. My mouth is just fine. Breathe in and breathe out. Put your attention directly on your breath. Breathe in and breathe out. Which brings up the third aspect, which is the aspect of mind. Our mind is a very powerful thing, as we've just started. It can create all kinds of issues for us. We simply watch it. So, as a thought arises, you kind of pretend maybe it's a leaf floating in a stream. Pick up the leaf or not. If you pick up the leaf, you're now thinking. Put the leaf back. Let it go. An image will come up. A feeling will come up. If we pay attention to that feeling and we link it to another, now we're watching a movie in our heads. You all have done that, I'm sure. Don't watch the movie. As soon as you realize you're watching a movie, put it back in the water and let it go. So you're just present, that's all. And that's really hard for most of us. So what we can do is we can do something like put your attention on your breath and literally watch your breath enter your nose and come down into your lungs. Watch it leave your body. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Over time, what you begin to realize is you're breathing in the universe. And then your body is breathing out yourself into the universe. So where is the division between me and the universe? The universe is coming into my body. The universe is leaving my body with me with it. There's a great integration there, understand? All those molecules and all those atoms coming in and going out, coming in and going out. So where is the division? It's a mental thing. It's not real. It doesn't exist. Just breath coming in and going out. So you sit quietly. You don't move. That's what we mean by sit down and shut up. Shut up your mind, shut up your body, just sit. So that's one thing, one technique. There's another we call mindfulness practice. Mindfulness practice, I think, is many times misunderstood, and it's used frequently. We see mindfulness everything in all kinds of journals and magazines and newspapers. Everybody wants to practice mindfulness. Well, the Buddha taught in his sutra for the four establishments of mindfulness that this is how it's done. Breathe in. You're aware you're breathing in a long breath. Breathe out. You're aware you're breathing a long breath. Breathe in. You're aware you're breathing a short breath. Breathe out. You're aware you're breathing a short breath. Pick up this in striker. Aware I'm picking up the striker. Placing it down. I'm aware I'm placing it down. I'm aware I'm touching this bell. I'm aware I'm putting the bell down. Okay? Putting your attention on exactly what you're doing at every moment is mindfulness practice, but it's not mindfulness. And this is where I think people make a mistake. They think that the mindfulness practice, breathing in, I'm aware I'm breathing out, breathing out, I'm aware I'm breathing in. Well, that's my little telling me I got to stop. As is to do the meditation. Okay. What is mindfulness is just being mindful. You see, if I say to myself, picking up this striker, I'm aware I'm picking up a striker, I'm now creating a duality. I'm separating myself from the striker. No. True mindfulness is when you and the striker are one. There's no separation. This, just this, just this, just this. Now, one of the things that's really important about that, I think, is that we begin to experience the world in a very different way. We begin to experience the unity of it all, the oneness of it all, and the fact that we can, in fact, touch it. We can touch the world. We can touch our joy. We can touch our anger, our hostility, all those kinds of things. But we don't have to keep them. Through the practice of Zen meditation, for example, we realize we have feelings, we have thoughts, but they're not permanent, are they? We simply have a feeling and we let it go. We have a thought, we let it go. We don't hold on to it. Now, with practice over time, that means that you become really aware of the feelings you're having before you're even having them, and noticing that you can let them go before you actually do anything with them. So that's in and out, in and out, in and out. But at the same time, you're aware. You're aware. You're aware. Now, this is not any panacea. It's not going to end our upsetness or our disturbances or anything like that. What it will do, if we practice, will teach us how to recognize it earlier and how to deal with it more effectively. So we're not walking around as some angry jerk or some unloving person, some person filled with fear. Okay, so any questions? I'm open to whatever question you might have.
Can I call you?
Can you call me? Absolutely, you can call me. Call me Harvey, you can call me Daiho, you can call me... No, I got it. No, if you want my phone number, just ask me and I'll give you my phone number. Or if you can go to my website and just Google me, man, I'm all over the internet. One of the unfortunate aspects of this thing. Okay, so any other questions? No questions? Like, what did it feel like to feel your brain? No, those feel, what did it feel like to kill somebody? I've had people actually ask me that, believe it or not. What does it feel like to gain enlightenment? I can't tell you that, I don't know. What we do is we have a don't know mind. We try to, Suzuki Roshi used to say, the mind that's full can't be taught. You know, the expert can't be taught. But when you empty your mind and you come at it from an empty mind or a point of view, then you're open to learning everything. One of the things that I used to think of a lot is when I can let that go, when I can get out of my own way, then anything I do becomes a teacher. Anything, I walk along and I step over an ant, the ant is teaching me compassion. Huh? If we begin to look at everything in the universe as a teacher, and we get our ego out of the way, then we are really in a position to learn a lot, I think. Like going back to Vietnam, I know, going back to Vietnam and facing my former enemies in 1986 and sitting down across the table from them and drinking down 30-cent cheap vodka was a really interesting experience. Yeah, anyway, I'm supposed to do meditation now, right? Okay. See, I got it. Even I have a schedule. All right. So, would you sit up, please? Can you do that? Don't put your back on the backrest, please. It's not meditation. True meditation is not about relaxation, contrary to public opinion. It's about becoming awake. Becoming awake to what's there in front of you, what's there in your body. So sit upright. Open your shoulders. Allow your lungs to breathe, for God's sakes. We are there's a culture like this, you know. So sit up. Hands together in a cosmic mudra. Left hand cradled to the right. Or if you're right-handed, left-handed, then reverse it. Dominant hand, okay, should be on the bottom. Thumbs lightly touching. Now, breathe in and breathe out. You can count your breaths or not count your breaths. I'm going to invite this bell to ring, and we'll do some sitting for a couple minutes and then stop, okay? Bow. Let me ask you something. Where are you? Where were you? Anybody have an idea where they are? Where you are? Here now, yes. Okay, good. I hope you weren't off on a little journey. The purpose of meditation is to be awake in this moment. That's all. No other thing. Just be awake in this moment. the Dogen, the guy that created the kind of Zen I practice in the 13th century, said that you need to just sit down. And that when you sit down in this way, mind and body fall away. And when mind and body fall away, everything is enlightened. You and the universe are one. Everything becomes your teacher. How cool is that? Just sit down and shut up. Easy. But you have to do it. That's the hard part, right? You gotta be willing to sit down and shut up. I guess it's time to close. Thank you so much for your kind attention, ladies and gentlemen. It was my pleasure to be here. Be well.